There's a lot of people in our culture today that perceive a conflict between science and the Christian faith. And of course, this includes young people who attend colleges and universities. And for these young people, that perception can create a lot of confusion and even despair. So what would you say to a young person who is struggling with science-faith issues? How can you help them to gain a proper perspective on science and Christianity?
It's interesting being at a university, at Oral Roberts University, a Christian university, we get students from public schools. We also get students from Christian schools and home schools. And they have different backgrounds with regard to science and faith. Some of them have been well versed in science from a secular perspective. Others have not been. They're more well versed in the biblical story of creation. And so it's very interesting to get them together and have them dialogue together and see where their struggles are. And they're often in how to reconcile the secular mainstream view of science, which is necessarily in our culture today godless, but with the understandings of Genesis that students have been raised with, which is often sometimes limited in its understanding too.
Well, I can't think of a better person to help us, again, advise young people in terms of, again, science-faith issues than you, Dominic. You have a PhD in engineering from UCLA, and you've been a professor at Oral Roberts University for almost 25 years. You've even been the dean for the College of Science and Engineering, as well as currently the director for the Center for the Integration of Faith and Learning. And of course, this is a question about integration. What kind of questions do students ask when it comes to science-faith issues? And are the questions that non-Christians ask different than the questions that Christians ask? And what can we do to help them address those questions and to resolve this conflict?
Some of the questions they ask are what about the reading of Genesis and then the picture of origins that we have in secular science? How do they fit together? And that's a great question. And I encourage them to read widely on this topic because scholars in both areas, science, philosophy, and theology and biblical studies, have been addressing these issues. And so, as you would expect a university professor to say, I sometimes just tell them, you need to read more, read widely and broadly in these areas. And I have a research group that gets together once a week of students who are interested in studying these issues, and we discuss it after we come and read these materials. We come in and they make presentations, 5-minute presentations on what they've been reading, and we discuss these issues. And I think it's good for this kind of a group dialogue to get to the deeper issues and deeper understandings of these issues.
So there's a lot of different models then that are in play when it comes to science-faith issues, and so students probably have a very limited perspective on that, where they might identify with only one model.
Right.
And so the fact that they even are exposed to a variety of different models is helpful to them.
That's eye-opening to many students to see the diversity of thought that exists within the Christian community. And so we're a very diverse family when it comes to understandings on origins, for example, which is probably one of the biggest issues that our students wrestle with. You know, how did God create everything? How and when did God create everything? But, you know, some of the students are coming to realize that perhaps it's okay if we don't understand everything about that. A little uncertainty is not a big deal. And I think it's refreshing to skeptics when they ask us questions if we admit that there's some uncertainty on that issue. We just don't know. There's certain things that God hasn't revealed to us yet, and that's okay.